How much money do you need to start living while traveling? The big question we're going to answer today. You've likely already decided to take a long road trip and either have the car or are still choosing one. But surely the question that keeps you up at night is, how much money do I need to start that trip? How can I determine how much money I need to start and travel confidently? We are Andy and Cynthia.
One of my biggest fears before setting out on our trip was running out of money, and we actually ran out of money 3 times.
What a mess!
But we learned several things that we're going to tell you about now.
We traveled from Argentina to Alaska over 8 years, experiencing every economic situation that you can imagine. From the very lowest of all, we had nowhere to stay, so we traded our crafts for food and they gave us cookies. Until we reached Alaska, United States, the trip's most expensive country. Filling up with gas, traveling in the caravan, covering a lot of miles without any major worries. We went through all of that and developed 5 steps so that you can determine in your particular situation how much money you need to start that big trip. Step number 1, be clear about the expenses you currently have. People often ask how much money we started traveling with and how much we left with. We've answered that question many times, but it's not important or helpful for anyone planning their trip. Why? Because everyone's reality and expenses differ, making this step crucial. Start becoming aware of the expenses we have daily in our finances. First, it will allow us to know how much we spend now, but also to lay the foundation to determine how much money we need to start traveling. I understand that this might sound a bit boring or rigid because you're thinking about going on a trip, living life, living your dreams, and enjoying yourself. And maybe you don't want to start keeping track of the expenses you're making every day. But we do know from our own experience that the more aware you are of that, the better prepared you can be. And with these steps we're going to share with you today, we're going to help you reduce that uncertainty about how much money you need to get started. So step number 1, write down your expenses, all your expenses. In fact, this is a habit that you can develop, that you should develop, and we suggest either at night when the day ends or in the morning when you wake up, write down the expenses from the previous day. You can use an Excel sheet like Cynthia does, an app like I use, or a notebook like many people use. But it is important that you set aside a little moment for this. It won't take you much time, and the more you develop the habit, the faster it will be. But have that little moment to write down each of the expenses you made the day before.
I want to add something.
Well, come and say it here.
We started not just registering it, which was already our habit, but actually doing something with that registration. Becoming aware afterwards of where it was going. Every cent gave us great clarity and was among our first major changes. To stop being in such great financial uncertainty throughout the day.
Absolutely.
Starting is tough, but the benefits are great.
Alright, I loved it. High five. So, to wrap up, these are the most common spending categories that most people have. Like, for example, rent,
food, expenses, internet, cell phone, utilities,
car insurance or registration,
fuel tolls, if you have pets.
Good, we thought the same thing. Veterinarian, or if they are club members. Many people are joining clubs, while others are ending memberships. It doesn't matter, but it's great if you start writing down all your daily expenses. And you might be wondering, what the heck does this have to do with anything? I want to start planning my traveler's life. Why do I need clarity about this moment? Don't worry. There are 4 steps left, and as you complete them, you'll see why starting with this step is so important. Step 2. Calculate your first month's travel expenses. And many will say, but that's exactly my big question. How do I figure out how much I'm going to spend? There are ways to do that, because in step number 1, you already wrote down everything you're spending right now. With those items, start by seeing which will disappear. For example, that was a joke. But if you're a member of a club and you won't be able to go to the stadium anymore, you'll probably cut that expense.
Rent.
You pay rent, you're going to leave the house. There are expenses that are obvious, that it's logical, you'll cut. But on the other hand, there will be expenses that will be added to that budget. And those expenses are basically related to what's logical for a trip, which I'm going to mention now, and those that have to do with your personal preferences. Only vehicle-related expenses are logical for the trip. And one of the biggest questions we've been asked has to do with fuel consumption, with the money you'll spend on gas per month. The producer can give you a better idea.
Here's how it is. Focus only on planning the first month of your trip. You don't need to organize the entire trip as conditions and countries can change. Consider the first month of the trip. Where are you starting? Your home. How many kilometers do you expect to cover in the first month? It's hard to say.
20,000?
20,000, 10,700. But we can tell you that from what we've learned by talking to many travelers who take long and slow trips, the average is 1,000 to 1,500 kilometers per month.
That number surprised me. We usually averaged around 700.
We're slower.
But well, it's more or less around there.
1,500 kilometers per month. You can pick any total value for now and adjust it later. This is just to start estimating how much money you'll need for your trip. Now 1,500 kilometers per month. At what price for fuel? The one you have today converted to dollars, Thomas, today's fuel price? You need to know your vehicle's consumption per 100 kilometers.
It's actually one of the most important details and can get you closest to an accurate number.
It's among the most important pieces of information, just like food.
I know people who went out with their estanciera who had no idea how much their truck consumed, and then,
when they learned it used nearly 20 liters per 100 kilometers, they were devastated.
Yes, I know people like that, but I won't name names.
You learn from your mistakes.
You learn from your mistakes, and look, we can tell you about it precisely because of that. Knowing how much your vehicle consumes is essential, and if you haven't bought it yet, considering its fuel consumption is an important factor. What's most important is your comfort and enjoying what you wear.
That's where you'll see the balance, but also your vehicle's consumption, even before you buy it.
Because it's going to affect the consumption.
So to calculate that fuel item, you can think about doing 1,000 or 1,500 kilometers per month. You need to know how many liters your vehicle uses every 100 kilometers. And the fuel price you should consider is the current one for the type of fuel you want to use or that your vehicle requires. And then you do that calculation for the fuel item. Don't worry about inflation now, we'll handle it later.
Some people in certain countries call that inflation.
Today almost everyone has it, but not like Argentina.
There you go, perfect. Thank you, producer. And with the second part, which has to do with the expenses that go into the trip for planning, it basically depends on your preferences. Do you like visiting national parks? Are you planning to go? They'll decide who enters during the first month of the trip. Imagine yourself there. Do you enjoy visiting museums? Do you enjoy excursions like whale watching or touring soccer stadiums? Anything related to your interests? That's going to be an expense that will probably be included in the budget, because what we're planning here is that you can be prepared to cover the expenses of your trip, but that it's a trip you enjoy. With this, we're trying to get it out of our heads. If someone thinks the trip must be austere and every penny counted, that's not always true. Many of you imagine life on the road, picturing yourselves enjoying it and your favorite activities. That's why this step number 2 is so important, where we're going to look at all the expenses we have. Eliminate the ones that will go away and add the new expenses. Now it's starting to take a little more shape. Still, there are 3 more steps to go. Step number 3, super short, but super important. People in Argentina will laugh and say, calculate everything in dollars. Why? Because there's a little issue with inflation, prices keep going up, things keep changing. But if you take a price in dollars, it's very likely that your expenses will stay the same over time. There might be fluctuations with the peso, with whatever. But the numbers you're calculating in dollars are very likely to stay the same. Just to clarify for Argentinians, which dollar are you using? There are many different ones you could choose from. Basically, it's the dollar you have access to, the dollar you can actually get. That's the exchange rate you should use to calculate your expenses. So now we've set our position. In your first month of travel, we already have an idea of all the expenses you currently have, which ones will go away and which ones will come in. And you convert that number to dollars. Now let's look at the 4th and 5th steps. Step number 4. Are you going on vacation or will you start working right away?
The point here is for you to imagine that first month and see if you will actually start working from the very beginning. Or if you prefer to say no, I'll take the first month or the first 2 months as a vacation and I'll adapt to this new life. This will depend a lot on the type of job you have. If you already have a job where you have commitments, or if it's something you handle more independently, that's what matters. That you make the decision whether you're going to work from the very first moment you hit the road, or if you are going to take a month or 2 just to adapt to the trip in vacation mode and then start working more regularly to sustain the journey. This matters if you've already figured out your first month's travel expenses, and now you decide that you want to take a month or two just to travel around and adapt to this new life. You already know you need at least twice what you calculated.
And step number 5. Now we're going to determine what your necessary amount is to start that dream life of traveling. Relaxed, easygoing, and calm. We'll do this by adding 2 things. First, we have what we've already defined, the time you want to feel at ease. Not working, you start your journey and go with the flow. In this example, you choose 2 months. 2 months, I'm not going to work, okay? 2 months. To make this example less complicated, let's use real numbers from a person whom Cynthia is advising. Please give me the numbers.
Here you go.
Thank you very much. For this case, let's say this person's name is
Marcella the Traveler.
And Marcella the Traveler, perfect, Marcella the Traveler. She decided her travel expenses will be $430. What do they include? Just so you know. She will keep paying self-employment tax, car, retirement, and health insurance because they're important to her. She calculated fuel, food, phone, gas, internet, excursions, camping, and miscellaneous, adding that as extra. Oh, property tax as well. No, I don't see her being associated with any...
And she keeps the property tax because she has a property that she doesn't want to sell or anything, so she's going to have to keep paying that tax.
Perfect. In this example, it's $430 that Marcella, the Traveler, determined she will need for her months traveling, her first months on the trip. Therefore, if we decide that for this example, she's going to spend 2 months without working while traveling, look, 430 times 2, and that gives us 860 that we need up front. Now here we add the extra element of this step, which has to do with a safety fund, which ideally should be between 3 and 6 months. This will allow you, when you start working, to handle any setbacks that might come up. If you have to sell something and they don't let you sell, or you can't get the materials, or if you started working online and there aren't many clients, or if your boss doesn't want to pay you, the complication, it's about knowing that you have a fund there that you can use and that you don't panic at that moment, but instead you just say, okay, but I already went out prepared. Does the producer want to say something?
That you won't starve to death. That was my fear.
It's really important to know that. So if you have the same fear doing this, well, you'll be able to minimize it. For this example, let's decide that we're going to need 3 months of this safety fund, or whatever name you want to give it. Therefore, we multiply 430 by 3, and that gives us 1,290. Great, so we add the $860 from the months he isn't working to the $1,290 from the security fund, and that gives us $2,150. That this person needs to have those 2 months at ease and then go out and take their trip working and everything, but relaxed and calm. And when I saw this number, it really caught my attention because it's a world very similar to the one we started our journey with. But we didn't determine it this way at that moment, and the feeling we started the journey with was completely different. If we had known and determined what our expenses were at that moment, when we were going to need them, and the peace of mind that would have given us to spend those first months experimenting with sales and everything we were doing, our feeling at the beginning of the journey would have been different, our peace of mind would have been different. We're making this video because many of you are at that stage, and we know that if you follow these steps, when the time comes to hit the road, you'll be at ease. At least the financial part will be clear. Obviously, after that, what you need to start doing is building that emergency fund, which is another process, but it can be done gradually. As you're planning your trip, do you want to say something?
Yes, this isn't just for trips, but can provide peace of mind at various life stages. For us, it was a huge relief to decide to have this safety fund when we were getting ready to end that stage of the trip for Argentina, Alaska.
Definitely.
Because either way, it's a transformation. We make a living from a travel channel and we're going to stop traveling. We had to transform ourselves, and during that, anything could happen. Right now, having that safety net gives us the peace of mind that we don't have to rush out and do anything or take just any job. Nothing. We can do what we want and in the meantime keep generating income. But if something goes wrong, we have our safety net.
And it's a peace of mind we've never felt before when it comes to money. In fact, we even thought about saying, let's take a month or 2 of vacation when we get back from Alaska. Well, so far we've decided it wasn't necessary, but it's still on the table just in case we feel like it. But knowing that we have that fund there gives us a lot of peace of mind. That's why we know that anyone who follows these steps, who does them when they go on a trip, will leave with enviable peace of mind. When it comes to the financial part, now, with these 5 steps, you'll be able to determine exactly how much you need to travel with financial peace of mind. So we'd like you to tell us in the comments if this information was useful to you or if you have any specific questions about what we just shared with you. Also, don't forget to leave your comments because we'll be checking them and responding to them. Thank you for staying until the end of this video, sending a big hug, and see you next time.